This video is a double feature, so that means 2 games instead of just 1, because I have 2 very significant games that I would love to share. The second and main game that I want to feature in this video will be a very close game with a lot of clutch and important decision making, basically what I always want to feature on this YouTube channel. But this first game that I want to share is a very cool team. I haven't really seen anything like it before. I definitely get a little lucky, especially in the late game, and generally I don't really like to make videos where I'm just stomping on the rest of the lobby, but I really do think that the final team comp of this game is really interesting and deserves a video. But this game is also very significant to me because it is the one that brought me over 1500 elo for the second time ever. And the first time I hit 1500 elo, that was when quick play still gave you elo, and over half of the games that I played to get 1500 elo were quick play games. Overall, getting 1500 elo is a lot more difficult now than it is before, so getting there is a very significant achievement for me. But anyways, because this first game is honestly a lot less interesting than the second game that I'd like to feature, we'll speed run through this game a little bit faster than I usually do. In the first few rounds of the game, I get a pretty good ground start. Even with the green orb hotfix, it's still a strong item and a strong early game synergy, and right off the bat I have the components to make a green orb as well as half of a muscle band, so a ground win streak team is kind of a no-brainer here. The only item that I need is a magnet, and I'll have a very strong opening item set. And look at this, the very first carousel has a magnet that's lined up perfectly for my character to pick up. So the game ends up giving me a fossil stone for the first carousel, and fossil stone is not a good component for ground. Pretty much none of the evolutionary stones have good overlap with ground, or at least none of them have very significant impact on what ground is trying to do. So while I still technically have a pretty good ground opener, I'm definitely interested in finding an angle for pivoting in the late game so that I can actually make use of this fossil stone and pretend that I didn't get disconnected and I intentionally picked it up. For the early game though, we'll just rock a basic ground team with basic ground items, and we can just fast forward through the rest of our early game. Not a perfect early game win streak, but not a bad one at all. I only lost 1 round, and I'm just able to hit 50 money as we get into our Gyarados round, where once again, I will get disconnected from the game. Oh boy, hopefully I can reconnect fast enough before the unique portal carousel. Thankfully I am, and I've also been keeping an eye on the ad picks of this game. People have added a lot of fossil units to the game, and ever since fossil has been reworked, it hasn't been very strong of a synergy, but in this current patch where aquatic is quite strong and ghosts are almost non-existent, there are definitely some good opportunities for fossil synergy to shine, and fossil synergy loves fossil stones, so I head into a fossil portal, and I grab myself a Dracovish. As an individual unit, Dracovish is not that impressive, but in terms of its synergies, I love Dracovish. It has Dragon, Aquatic, and Fossil synergy. If you have Dragon synergy activated, on its own it can increase your Aquatic synergy 1 level, and if you have Fossil synergy activated, Aquatic synergy is a great way of reducing flinch duration, as well as potentially healing it with the Aquatic wave after it does its Fossil revival. Just a great combination of synergies, as I also add some fossil units into my team, and will continue along, completely dropping ground synergy in favor of fossil, water, and aquatic. We'll just speed through the mid game. We're still focusing on economy and leveling up. After a carousel, we're able to make ourselves an old amber, and we'll keep increasing our aquatic and fossil synergies, making use of dragon as a side synergy alongside those synergy bumps that dragon can provide. Once we're able to find ourselves a Gumi, we're really bumping up our aquatic synergy. We're also able to evolve ourselves an early Yanmega, which is a very fun fossil unit. We're also using the Adpick Surskit to double up our Yanmega, and with the support of a second Yanmega and Surfing Pikachu, we're able to close out the last few rounds of the mid-game with a fully pivoted team. And as we head into our legendary portal carousel, I would love to pick up a fossil legendary, but unfortunately both fossil portals get instantly stolen, so I instead settle for a dragon aquatic portal. I'm sure I could fit in a dragon or aquatic Pokemon into my team, and a great selection of strong units, including that aquatic Volcanion, but I end up picking up the most fun legendary, at least in my opinion, who is a dragon fossil monster, Regidrago. Regidrago has some pretty great defensive stats, a standout 350 HP, as well as an ability that deals damage based on its HP. With Dragon Synergy activated, on its own it gives you 2 bumps of Fossil Synergy, which is crazy. And it also has Monster Synergy, so if it's able to pick up kills and you have Monster activated, it's going to keep itself healthy, increase its stats along the way, and make sure that its own ability never runs out of steam. Once it gets knocked out for the first time, it's going to gain a huge amount of shields, and then hopefully heal itself back up, using that Monster Synergy even further. So going into the late game, we've got Fossil 6, Aquatic 6, and Dragon 5. We're dropping Aquatic 8 Synergy, because honestly, as good as Surfing Pikachu is, not being able to itemize a summoned unit is really going to limit its late game potential. Overall, Aquatic 6 and Aquatic 8 are pretty much the same thing, minus that Surfing Pikachu. Fights usually don't go on long enough for a third wave to be triggered, so I'm totally happy dropping Aquatic 8 in favor of Fossil and Dragon Synergy. So we'll continue along with this very strong team, and we're even comfortable pushing towards level 9. During a carousel, I'm able to grab myself a Muscle Band. That's an item that's not really desired in the late game for most teams, but it happens to work very well with Fossil units. That's going to go on my Regidrago, giving it even more carry potential. And we'll continue our late game with the amount of remaining players decreasing after every round. Eventually, I decide to swap out my Bug 2 Synergy in favor of Amorphous 3 Synergy, and I also want to activate Monster Synergy, so in comes this Gibble. And these are some really nice synergies to splash in for our Regidrago. Amorphous works really well with Fossil because all your units have extra HP, and as we discussed earlier, Monster Synergy is great for Regidrago because it now can heal and deal more damage. And yeah, as we continue along, this team is just absolutely crushing everything. Our Yanmega has just been consistently great, protected very nicely with our front line, and Regidrago is also having some very nice team leading fights. We'll complete its build with a Soul Dew, another scaling item that works well with Fossil Synergy, and we'll reach level 9 here, slotting in a Frigibax, which gives us Ice 2 Synergy for some more special defense, and that also lets us replace our Gibble with a Rhyhorn, giving us Rock 2 Synergy while also maintaining that Monster 2 Synergy. We will unfortunately just barely lose one round here. Definitely could have gone either way, but we're not too worried about this because we still have a lot of health. And because I've been focusing on levels, a lot of my units are unevolved, so a lot of potential for my team to still grow. I'm also able to pick up a Bloodstone, which is a Rock Synergy Weatherstone. If I am to face that wild team again in the future, that Bloodstone will definitely help out. Anyways, let's continue along, taking down this Sound team, where our Regidrago is just able to heal up any damage that it takes. Even with just Monster 2 Synergy activated, it's an unkillable menace. In the next carousel, we grab ourselves a Green Orb to try to splash even more healing for my Fossil units. And as my Ghost takes on that Wild team for a rematch, I'll win this round against an Ice team, whose freezes are pretty much completely negated thanks to Aquatic 6 Synergy. And once again, Regidrago gaining health as it one-shots everything, and we'll speed through the remainder of the game because this is pretty much in the bag. Just before the start of the final matchup, we're able to grab ourselves a Dragonite, a Gastrodon, and a Rhydon. And that's pretty much going to wrap it up. The very cool team that brought me to 1500 for the second time ever. A very clean and fortunate game, considering all the disconnects that happened in the first few rounds of the game. So let's move on to our main act, a much more exciting and close game. But while we get through the early rounds of this game, it's been a while since I've done an off-topic intro. I guess it's not really an intro anymore because we literally just watched an entire game. But I want to introduce you to my dog, who my girlfriend and I just adopted earlier this month. She is a 3-year-old rescue. Not certain what her breed is, but some kind of Jindo Corgi mutt. Just a very cute dog-shaped dog. That's honestly the best way to describe her breed. Her name is Tofu, but the Big Wef community would probably prefer calling her Big Woof. And she is absolutely amazing and incredible, and I just had to share that with everyone here. Anyways, we're starting things off with a Water 3 opener, one of my favorites. We're also picking up a Duskull coin as our stage 4 carousel item, which is going to increase our maximum interest cap by 1, as well as give us 3 gold, which is very significant in the early game, because now I can reach 20 gold as well as maintain 3 water units, and we'll win our first round against a baby team. Now, usually when I run Water Synergy, I'm looking to lose streak instead of win streak, especially with this Duskull coin. But whatever, the first round doesn't matter, and we'll start our lose streak against this next team anyways. In the next round, I fish up a 3rd Mudkip, and that evolves me a Marshtomp. Kind of awkward, because I'd much rather sell that Mudkip for an extra gold. But that's fine, we can still hit 40 gold by selling off our 2 4 costs, and then throwing in these other 2 water units. This way I can keep fishing while continuing my lose streak. hopefully, and we'll lose another round against a fire team. And I'm already noticing that there's 2 people that built Razor Fangs. It's a very strong item this patch, but it does get countered by Rocky Helmet. So I will have to keep a lookout for Rocky Helmet. I currently have 0 heart scales, which is not ideal, but we'll still have opportunities moving forward. Anyways, we're already at 50 gold, which is really nice, but I actually want to be at 60 gold because of that Dust Skull coin. Here we'll lose yet another fight, and in the very next round, I fish up a 3rd Squirtle, which evolves me a Wartortle. My next ad pick draft offers me a pretty poor selection of items. In the current meta, you pretty much never want to see Miracle Seed, and if you already have a Charcoal, that's not a very good item to pick up either. So I'll just grab a Nevermelt Ice, and we'll lose our final round of the early game. And with the evolutions I fished up, I'm pretty confident I can beat Gyarados. And looking at the ad picks, there's some pretty good water and aquatic ads, and I've got decent items for both water and aquatic, so I am definitely not opposed to picking up a water or aquatic unique portal. So, throwing in some water and aquatic units, we easily take down Gyarados. We'll head into the double water portal, because nobody else seems to want it, and we've got a pretty interesting selection of uniques. Both of our water picks are decent, but we can also mess with Stonejourner. We've done that successfully multiple times with water teams on this channel. I'm not really seeing an angle with anything else, but one thing I can note is that Ammonite works pretty well with both Pyukumuku and Relicanth, and while Pyukumuku does have some pretty great late game potential, I feel like Relicanth is just the better unit overall. With a loss streak opener, I don't really want to lose any more rounds. Had I gone for a win streak early, I probably would have picked Pyukumuku for that late game Amorphous angle, but without too much HP to spare, let's pick up Relicanth as an overall stronger unit, and then I decide to go up to level 6 to get better fishing, and more PB generation on all of my water units. Earlier in the round, I also made an Assault Vest, because Gyarados awarded me a 3rd Nevermelt Ice, and Assault Vest is just an overall really good item. Our first opponent in the mid game is running an Ice team, but they're very lacking in terms of evolutions, so despite a very nice set of items on that backline Vanillite, we're able to win very comfortably with our unit and evolution lead. And in the next ad pick draft, still no heart scales, but I am able to grab a Twisted Spoon, which is pretty nice for water teams. With that, it's time to start slamming some items, so we'll equip that Assault Vest onto our Relicanth, and we'll make a Soldew for our Wartortle, giving it even more PP generation and scaling damage. I'll hold off on making anything with the remaining item components. For now, let's take on a Poison team. They've got a really cool set of items on their Poipole, Spell Crit, and Soldew. Poipole is a very cool unit that gets stronger every time it knocks out a unit with its ability, and it can even evolve into a dragon once it gets enough kills. So definitely a threat to look out for the rest of this game. And in the next round, we've got a Carousel. Even though I'm moving pretty early in this Carousel, there's still no heart scales. That's pretty concerning considering there's so many players playing Crit right now. But whatever, let's pick up a Mystic Water that could pair very nicely with our Soldew Wartortle. Because with the Mystic Water, I can make myself an Aqua Egg. And when paired with the Soldew, hopefully its holder will just be able to cast non-stop. And let's continue along against this Dragon team. Looks like they hatched themselves both Axew and Dreepy, and they picked up a Drampa, which I think is a very strong mid-game unit. But thankfully, it's not itemized, so we're actually able to deal a lot of damage with our Wartortle, and we'll take another comfortable win against this Emergent Dragon team. Alright, in the next round, I'm able to find myself a Clauncher, which is a very fun unit. It has one of the strongest abilities in the game, but a ridiculously high PP stat. It takes a very long time to generate that PP and launch its ability, but once it does, it can absolutely decimate clumped up teams. Its ability also counts as 3 Sound Synergy casts. So what this means is that for Sound Synergy, which is a synergy that grows stronger on each ability cast, when my Clauncher uses its ability, it counts as using it 3 times. So I would get 3 sound buffs instead of just 1. Clauncher really is an all or nothing kind of unit, so it's really going to appreciate the extra PP generation through that Aqua Egg, Soldew, and Water Synergy. I'm really hoping that it will serve as my backline carry and be able to cast multiple times per fight. We did lose our first fight utilizing Clauncher, but that's okay, we're still growing our team. We'll take down Mewtwo and Mew for a second Charcoal, which at this point I really don't want. And then with the final item component draft, I do get offered a heart scale, but I'm not feeling confident that I'll be able to get a second one anymore. Instead, I want to focus on combining some of the components that I'm holding on to right now. It's not an amazing item for Clauncher, but I'm able to make an X-ray vision with 2 magnets. That will at least allow it to attack and cast much faster. Attacking faster also generates PP faster. So while not ideal, it is fine, and I decide to commit a bit of gold into rolling, and I am able to evolve myself a Clawitzer. This is a pretty significant upgrade because at this point in the game, it can pretty much one-shot almost everything, especially once it scales up a little bit with the Soul Dew. But I'm really hoping that Clawitzer can really turn things around for my team and stabilize me as we move into the late game. We're taking on the Fire team, and at first it doesn't look great for my team, but once Clawitzer fires its ability, we've pretty much put out those flames, and what a perfect fight to show off the strength of Clawitzer. And as we move into the next round, we'll continue with our stabilization. We're able to fish up an Ammonite, which is really nice since it's able to activate Fossil 2 synergy for our Relicanth. Fossil 2 isn't really that amazing for my team, but it does act as a pseudo shiny charm. Pretty much just prevents our Relicanth from being instantly one-shot. Our next fight is against a team that looks like they were previously running Baby 7. Thankfully, they haven't gotten their shiny item yet, so it doesn't take long for my Clawitzer to delete their team. Alright, next round is going to be a carousel, and the best item for me would be a Twisted Spoon. I can make myself a Power Lens, which combos very nicely with Assault Vest, and there is a Twisted Spoon in this carousel. It is coming towards me, which is very nice, but watch this Munchlax player. It looks like they're also after the Twisted Spoon, but after a slight hesitation, they end up just barely missing it and letting me pick it up, and then they get clipped by a Fossil Stone. No clue if they're able to make that Fossil Stone work, but I kind of felt their pain right there. Happens to the best of us. But as we continue along, I'm not entirely sure how I want to wrap up this team. Because of how much PP generation I have, there is an angle for water sound. There is decent overlap with water and sound, but not in this game. It's pretty much just the Clauncher that I have access to, but Grookey is really great in these kind of water comps. And if I do hit level 9, I will be able to get Sound 4 on top of Water 6, so that's kind of the game plan moving forward. And while I should probably be saving my money for level 9, I decide to continue to invest in Tempo. Using a Ditto, I'm able to evolve myself a Crocolore, who's holding a red orb. That's an item that actually works pretty well with Crocolore's ability. And earlier, I was also able to grab myself a Loudred, which is a decent sound unit. Regardless, we'll continue along against this green orb stacking ground team. Despite this ground team's scaling special defense and a whiff from my Clawitzer's first ability cast, the second cast connects beautifully and wins me the round. In the next round, I'm very happy to find myself a Grookey, a fantastic late game sound unit who's able to generate PP for its allies, and despite not being evolved, it definitely has more utility than Loudred, so it's going to take its place. And we'll continue onwards against the Ice Team. This time, the Ice Team has some very dangerous ice cream cones in the backline. Lobster and ice cream don't go well together, but despite the potentially challenging matchup, the rest of my team is definitely not a pushover. I mean, we've got the Assault Vest Power Lens combo, which is dealing tons of damage, and we've also got Fossil Synergy, Aquatic Synergy, and Fighting Synergy for utility and defenses. Overall, my team was just much further ahead than my opponents, so that's yet another easy win. Alright, as we approach the Legendary Portal Carousel, let's talk about what Legendary Pokemon I would like to pick up. There are some very good water legendaries with fantastic carry potential like Volcanion and Kyogre, but I'm actually pretty comfortable just using Clawitzer and Sound Scaling as my late game carries. I'm definitely not lacking in the damage department. What I actually want more is a really strong water tank. The actual best legendary that I could pick up would probably be Arceus. It's got serviceable defenses and it could be both water and sound synergy, which would be great, but it's pretty much not possible to guarantee yourself an Arceus. So this is a rare case where I would actually be happiest finding myself a Keldeo. Keldeo has some pretty great frontline stats. It's got fighting synergy for some added tankiness, and its ability can actually be pretty impactful because it can do true damage, but ultimately, picking up a Suicune or a Palkia wouldn't be too bad either. For taking down Lugia and Ho-Oh, we get a Wonder Box, which is fine. Now, during the Legendary Carousel, there's a Water Portal with 2 fighting symbols, which is a pretty nice chance of finding a Keldeo, but it very quickly moves away from my character, and thinking that it would be contested, I hop into the first Water Portal I can, but then the fighting Water Portal goes uncontested, so I definitely could have picked it up anyways. But ultimately that doesn't matter because I get offered a Keldeo and that's going to be an instant pickup for me. And what's also really nice is that I am in a dragon region. There is a specific Pokemon in this region that would be a perfect 9th unit for me. So my biggest power spike now would be getting to Water 9 and finding that specific unit. We've got a lot of health and reserved economy, so it looks like it's going to be an achievable goal. But for now, while we are level 8, we'll just run the strongest units that we can. With our Keldeo, we'll start off our late game taking on the Poison Poipole team. They now have a Naganadel. We've also unfortunately dropped our aquatic synergy, so we're very exposed to poison. But thankfully, my opponent's team clumps up perfectly for my Clawitzer to nuke them down. Keldeo also dishing out good damage with its ability and providing some good frontline protection. And in the end, my Crocalor, which is scaled up by Sound Synergy, is able to win me the fight. Now, in the previous round, I sold off my Poliwag for a Wingull, and even though Wingull's a much stronger unit than Poliwag, I actually want to use Poliwag over the Wingull because it has better synergies and it has a slightly better ability. Just the fact that it can generate PP for my actual good units. So finding a Poliwag in the shop, we're able to make that swap back, and we'll continue onwards, now taking on the Double Hatch Dragon team. And with my opponent having a ton of 3-star dragons, as well as a Kyurem splashing Ice 2 onto its team, they're able to burst through my team quite quickly, and that's going to be a round loss for me. It's turning out to be a very close game because there are a lot of players with low HP. Everyone is desperate to survive, so things are going to get spicy. And especially spicy after Munchlax shows up in our next carousel, giving everybody a picnic set. That's a one-time use item that's going to buff up your entire team by feeding everyone sandwiches, which provides a bunch of extra stats. During this carousel, however, I am able to pick up a Rocky Helmet, which is a great pickup considering how so many players are running crit builds. That's going to go on my Relicanth, who already has some very good defenses thanks to its Assault Vest and Power Lens. It also gets to revive with a bit of extra shields from Fossil Synergy, so this Rocky Helmet is definitely going to help it out where it's lacking currently in physical defense and crit reduction. During that carousel, I was also able to level up to 9, which lets me throw in a Jangmo-o, the exact unit that I needed. It provides me fighting and sound synergy, which gives me sound 4 and fighting 4 at the same time. Very nice for both my frontline defenses and my sound scaling. We'll be blocking a little bit more damage with fighting synergy, and our sound units will now be scaling my team's speed stat alongside their attack. And we'll see these new synergy bumps in action as we take on this amorphous aquatic water team. They've got a very strong Fione in the backline, which would normally absolutely shred through entire teams, but its damage and scaling is very much slowed down by our tanky frontline and Rocky Helmet. My opponent is also very much lacking in their own frontline, so with just a couple casts, my Clawitzer is able to evaporate that amorphous team, and we'll continue onwards as players are being knocked out of this game left and right. We've already spent all of our money to hit level 9 and hit our synergy bumps, so there's not really much more I can do. Let's move on to our next opponent. They're running a Dragon Fire team, and unfortunately, this team has been fed sandwiches, and with their buffed up stats, they're able to make short work of my team. Way too many stats for my Clawitzer to get through, and with my Rocky Helmet Relicanth being taken down, that Zekrom with a Fang and Claw combo just absolutely tears through my team, and now I am potentially on my last life. Thankfully, we still have our own picnic basket, but unfortunately there are still 2 players that are far ahead of me in terms of health. They also both have their own picnic baskets, so there's going to be some challenges to overcome here. But regardless, here are the legendary birds, and for taking them out, I'm going to grab myself a second Power Lens. Definitely could have made the case for an ability shield, as there is still a very strong looking poison team in the game, but I just really like the damage reflection and the stats that the Power Lens can provide. If the poison ever does become a problem, I do have a backup plan in mind, and we'll continue onwards using a Ditto to evolve our Oshawott into a Duwat. And here we're taking on the Poison team, which is looking scarier than ever. They've got a lot of amorphous synergy bumps, they've got a lot of ghost synergy curses active, as well as a Cursula. And this team just completely melts through my team. Tons of poisons and huge critical hits coming from that Naganadel and the Nihilego in the back. That fight did not go well at all, and I barely survived with just 2 HP left. As we move onwards, I am very much backed into the corner. I don't find any upgrades this round, but I do find a second Grookey in the shop that I'm not able to afford. And also, unfortunately, not wanting to lose, I have to eat my sandwiches. It's time to group up our units so that they can have a nice little picnic. It's going to be great having some extra stats thanks to those sandwiches, but what's not great is that my 2 opponents that are probably stronger than me still have their picnic sets, and I'm likely going to have to beat their teams in the future when they have their own sandwich buffs. But regardless, we're now taking the Fire Dragon team once again, and this time I'm the one that has sandwiches, and with my team being the one that's buffed now, we're actually able to easily win this fight, bringing us to a 3-player game. Alright, next item carousel. Thankfully I have priority, and I grab a pretty nice item in green orb. I throw it on my Grookey to hopefully splash on some healing across my entire team, as well as even more PP generation for my backline. Very, very helpful for sound teams. And unfortunately, since I'm still broke, there's no significant upgrades in this next round. We're taking on an aquatic Fion team, and I didn't check to see if they use their sandwiches, but I'd be very surprised if they didn't. Fortunately though, my team just does way more burst damage, and having 2 power lens really helps against that Volcanion. And seeing that this fight was an absolute wash, I scout the poison player. It looks like my team was actually able to just narrowly win around there. Definitely could have gone either way there, and sandwiches would obviously make a huge difference. My opponent didn't use their sandwiches, and they have no reason to because they still have a lot of health left. So we'll still have to overcome that team when it's buffed with sandwiches. But for now, in this PvE round, we are very fortunate to be able to evolve our Grookey into Thwackey. Actually a huge upgrade for my team because of the extra PP generation. And for taking down the legendary beasts, our good fortune continues as I'm able to grab an ability shield, which is going to be fantastic against poison and ghost. And to really seal the deal against this status inflicting team, I do a little bit of shop rolling using the little money that I have to find a Totodile. That's going to take the place of our Ammonite, granting us Aquatic 2 synergy over Fossil 2 synergy. The lowered status duration as well as that Aquatic Wave might just be what we need to overcome this status inflicting team. I also decide to swap my positioning to the left just to shake things up against this opponent, and it ends up being a very good play as my opponent also moves their team to the right. And this basically keeps my Clawitzer extra safe as my opponent has to melt through many rows and columns of protection, and they clump up perfectly for my Clawitzer to hit multiple targets. Not the most comfortable victory, but because of the very good positioning, we'll take a pretty nice and clutch round 1 there. Alright, now my opponent is on their final life. I'm able to use a Ditto to just squeeze one more evolution in Croconaw, but a very big problem as my opponent is now using their picnic basket. Their team is now considerably stronger than before. I'm trying to scout out my opponent and see how they're positioning their team, but they're kind of being vague and just throwing things around in the center. And being unsure what my opponent is doing with their positioning, I throw my Duat all the way on the right, just to hopefully prevent an awkward vertical engagement. It ends up not really mattering as our teams engage immediately, and once again Clawitzer is protected by multiple layers of tanky units. The Aquatic Wave does a great job cleansing a lot of poisons. Thwackey is also providing a ton of support with its green orb healing, team-wide buffs, and PP generation, and even through the sandwiches, this fight goes really well for me. With all of our sound units surviving, we're able to make a very clutch comeback victory, overcoming that well-fed poison team. Thank you so much for watching, hope you enjoyed both games. Good game to everyone from both matches, and I will see you all in the next game. Take care.